Hello, my beautiful book besties. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Liv, and today we're going to be doing a massive book haul. But before we dive into the book haul, I have a very exciting announcement to make. Have massive stacks of books in front of me, and I believe I counted and there's 50 or 51-ish books to share with you. Let's just say I've accumulated a lot, and it's been a while since I've done a book haul. There's been a lot of new releases. I've gotten some books from publishers and book boxes, and I have so many different types of books to share with you, and I'm so excited about it. But before we get into all of that, I have something that I am just overjoyed to share with you, and that is I want to introduce you to my very own Liv's Library cozy book sleeve collection. This collection has been an actual dream come true. Some of you may know my friend Rachel over at the Bestie Book Sleeve, who creates these beautiful, best quality book sleeves I have ever used, and she decided to let me pick out all of the fabric and create and curate this collection for your cozy fall and cozy winter bookish needs. I cannot get over these. I cannot stop looking at them. Before I introduce each one of these to you, because yes, I named them all and they are all different patterns, I do just want to say I'm not here to get you to buy these, but I do just want to make you aware that this is a limited run, like limited edition. So once these book sleeves are gone, they're gone. We may or may not bring them back. I may just bring them back exclusively to my patrons. So if you want any of these book sleeves, I would go right now. It's currently live, and you can buy any of these in all three of the sizes. These are the largest size, which are gonna fit a hardback and sometimes a paperback. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the Cozy Liv's book sleeve collection. Because it is currently fall, and you know how much I love fall, we had to find the perfect fall book sleeve. So the whole collection started from this one fabric called Autumn Reverie. As you can tell, this one has all types of autumn items on it, like pumpkin pie, pumpkin leaves, we have acorns and berries and mushrooms. And this book sleeve is actually the epitome of fall. You have books, you have teacups, you have a kettle, you have mushrooms. These are all cozy items that I personally love, and I could not pass up this fabric, and I hope you guys love this one as much as we do. And because these book sleeves most likely will get to you in the month of November, we wanted to choose a book sleeve that was a little bit more winter. That was something that was a fall to transitional book sleeve, and that's where Winterwood Tales came from. It reminds me of a warm but also winter sunset. This is the perfect orangey yellow color, and I personally really love the diamond pattern of this one. This next pattern was kind of a no-brainer. You guys know I love witchy cottagecore things. I love fantasy, and so I had to pick something that kind of was a nod to my love for all things witchy, and that is where we came up with Potions and Petals. This one is absolute perfection. In case you can't tell, I have an obsession with mushrooms and plants. I love the perfect chocolate brown color. I literally cannot choose a favorite, but this one is definitely top 2. Next we have number 4, which we decided to call Storybook Cottage for very good reason. We have this very cute sweet cottage, and there's also this beautiful book. Also, this background color is the perfect like teal gray blue. We were thinking about ditching this pattern, but honestly I think this specific blue is the perfect wintry color. This one I also feel like could kind of be a spring book sleeve if you really wanted to. We thought we were gonna stop at 4 book sleeves, but when we saw these, like, I could not say no. Rachel and I were like, we have to do these, and honestly I'm so glad we kept these because you guys seem to love these the best, especially this fox one, which we decided to call Fireplace Fox. It just reminds me of a sweet little fox that's hibernating in the wintertime, or that's curled up right beside a fireplace. So I felt like that name for the sleeve was a no-brainer, and my love for foxes comes from when I was very young. I've loved and been obsessed with foxes ever since I was a kid, so I felt like this was the perfect like cozy creature to add to the collection. And last but not least, this specific artist put out this pattern as we were finalizing the rest of these and we were like, we have to do this. I, for one, really love a good checkered pattern. The artist so timely put out this beautiful fall foliage checkered pattern, which we decided to call Acorn Hollow. Something about this checkered pattern and the way she made it look textured is just beautiful. Not only do I have these beautiful book sleeves to share with you, but we also designed these cute little bookmark charms. The first one is this adorable little fox, which again looks like he is curled up just like the book sleeve. Like, I'm telling you guys, these match perfectly. And because we have a lot of mushrooms going on in this collection, we had to do, of course, a mushroom bookmark charm as well. And I love oranges and teal together. So go ahead and run to Rachel's website in my description, grab yourselves a book sleeve or two or all six, because I literally cannot pick a favorite, or grab yourself some bookmark charms. These also make perfect gifts for Christmas. But I hope you guys are just as excited as I am about these, because I've been freaking out. But these are finally out in the world. They're so beautiful, and I hope you guys think so too. Alright besties, we are now going to dive into the big book haul portion of this video. Like I said, there is over 50 books I'm about to talk about, so this is definitely going to be more of like a rapid fire book haul. I'm not going to explain the synopsis. I may explain to you why I picked these books up, but there's a lot. I don't even have all the shelf space for it, which is like a constant problem in my household, but a very good problem to have. I'm gonna go by genre, but I'm literally just gonna pick books, but let's just dive right in with the fantasy books. Okay, I have three very beautiful, very special editions that I wanted to share first, and the first one is Howl's Moving Castle. This is the new Fairy Loot edition that I pre-ordered back in January or February, and they recently released the Kiki's Delivery Service one as well, that you know I already got my hands on to match this one, but this book is stunning, you guys. Look at these sprayed edges, and then the beautiful, beautiful naked cover with this blue foiling of the castle, but it even has this beautiful reversible dust jacket that I'm just as obsessed with as the actual cover. This is probably the most beautiful book I own to date, and I cannot stop looking at it. So this book I got from Pango and I have not read yet, but it's called The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. I have loved every single Catherine Arden book I've read, and I believe this is the adult Owl Crate edition, but you have these beautiful maroon sprayed edges. But look at these end pages with the violin. The violin is actually foiled. I don't know if you can tell, but on the naked cover is Ghosts Have Warm Hands, and the back says The Blessed Forget and the Damned Remember. We also have a reversible dust jacket for this one as well, which is super fun. This reminds me so much of The Savage Song by V.E. Schwab, but I've heard that this is a really good historical fantasy book, and I have really been into that since Divine Rivals, so I'm really excited to see what this one is all about. And then also from Owl Crate Young Adult, my subscription, I believe this was in September, we have Castle of the Cursed, and this is definitely one of the prettiest books I own. It's a young adult, like gothic, vampire, romance, fantasy book, but look at these edges! This is like a stained glass window. It is so beautiful, and then there's moons on the top and the bottom as well. But you have this prince on the front, and then you have this castle on the back, and that's in Spanish, so I'm not gonna try to pronounce it. And this one also has a reversible dust jacket, but I actually prefer this a lot better. The red foiling is absolutely stunning. Next, I want to talk about a couple series that I really want to get to. The first one being the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. I read the first one, gave it 5 stars. It's amazing. I loved it so much, and I think Prince Dracula is in a castle. I feel like this is gonna be a complete 5-star series for me, so when I saw it for 30 bucks, I was like, wow, that is not bad. The next series that I realized I needed to complete is these, is it 20th anniversary edition of Harry Potter. I own all of the other ones. These are the black and white covers, but I don't own the Order of the Phoenix, the Half-Blood Prince, and the Deathly Hallows, so I had to get all of these. But I absolutely love these covers because when you put them all together, they make a big picture, and I'm going to be doing a reread of Harry Potter next year, and I'm so stoked about it. So, of course, I had to own all of the books. And then I had to go ahead and get the rest of the Spark part of the Everand series because I own the indie published paperback edition, and of course they have the hardback now out in Barnes & Noble, but I didn't want to have to like buy all of them in hardback, so I decided to buy the paperback indie versions instead. No, I have not read the first one still, and the fourth one had not come out when I bought these, so I still need to buy the fourth one as well, but I know this is going to be like a 6 or 5-star series. These next two books I actually wanted to talk about together because it's the same author and they kind of go hand in hand. I picked up An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, and then of course Air just came out, which I'm super excited about, but I've heard people yelling about it on Instagram that you must read Ashes first before Air. I own both of these books and I have not read either one, but this is definitely going to be a next year series for sure. The next book is one that came out recently called The Dagger and the Flame, The City of Phantom. This book is beautiful. I mainly kind of just got it because of the design, but I've also heard that there's like a deadly game of revenge. It just gives off like those urban gothic fantasy romantasy vibes that I love so much. I have a feeling this one's gonna blow up and it sounds phenomenal to me. Love a good gothic romantasy, so I had to get my hands on this one. Another edition that I've been holding out on getting until the like traditionally published version came out, and that is When the Moon Hatched. This is so pretty. Look at these blue edges. This is like one of my favorite colors, and the inside has these beautiful end pages as well. Don't know much about this one. I just know it's a very submersive world full of lots of dragons and creatures, and of course a good romance on the side. I do know it's adult, so it's a little bit more complicated, but I'm willing to stick it out for such a stunning book. And then we have Phantasma, which is another adult fantasy that was a book of the month choice, and I had to get my hands on it because the buzz around this one has been crazy good. I think this one is full of demons and angels and just really dark things, and I know it's pretty spicy, but I heard that the turnout and the writing and everything about this book in general is just really phenomenal, so I had to see what it's all about. You guys know if there's a fantasy book that's buzzing, I am most likely going to get my hands on it. The 13th Child is one that I have been waiting for so long to come out. I did read this one, and spoiler alert, I absolutely loved it, but I had to get the Barnes edition because of the gold sprayed edges, and it is a retelling of God of Death, I think, the Grimm's fairy tale, so I was unaware of that, but I absolutely love this book. The world was unique and it was really creepy, and I absolutely loved it. Then we have another one of those cases where everybody is talking about this book called The Monstrous Kind. This is a gothic fantasy romantasy. Are we surprised? I think this takes place in London and there's monsters, and I think there's even some type of disease or something that is going around, and yeah, I think this is a standalone, so we don't often see that, but I'm super excited about this one. Gothic fantasy is just my vibe and my jam, and this one I know is not going to disappoint. I also have two books that I talked about recently in like my witchy TBR. The first one is Rewished by Lucy Jane Wood, and then I also have The Witch Would Not by Olivia Atwater. These are definitely two very different vibes because in this one we have a girl who I think is like in charge of a bookshop and super cute and super cozy and more of like a contemporary romance, and this one is more of a Victorian gothic fantasy, and I loved Olivia Atwater's Half a Soul. It definitely took a darker turn than I was expecting, and I can only imagine what this one is going to be about. We love a good fae romance story, and I think this one is just going to be just as good. Next is a book that I'm so excited about. It comes out this month in October, but the publisher so kindly sent me a copy of The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door. But this one is a mythic magical tale full of secret scholarship, fairy curses, and the deadliest spells of all, the ones that friends cast on each other. This book is gonna have those fantastical but also like academic vibes that I really am looking for this time of year. This was also blurbed by Olivia Atwater, and she said historical fantasy at its finest. So I have a feeling this could be a really good book, and spoiler alert, this might be a November book club choice for my Patreon book club. If you want to read this book with us and vote for this one as the choice, you can definitely check that out in my description. Next, I have Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken, which I did not recognize this cover on the shelves. Kendall picked this up when we were book shopping, and I was like, wait, what is that book? I thought it was new, but I've never read an Alexandra Bracken. It sounds a little bit more dystopian, which I love a good dystopian. It's been a while since I've read one. It's always circulating around booktube and bookstagram, and I see it all the time. I had to get my hands on this one because the cover really sold me. Next, I have The Wild Huntress, which is a brand new release from one of my favorite underrated authors of all time. She wrote The Bone Houses, which I was obsessed obsessed with a few years ago and definitely recommend for this time of year if you've never read it before. But this one is supposed to be kind of Hunger Games-ish. It says, every 5th year as harvest wane, 2 kingdoms meet in wooded domain, and those who cannot hunt nor slay belong to your king for a year and a day. Kings and beggars trust to your aim, for in the wild hunt all are fair game. Next is a book that I know is going to be 5 stars. I know I'm going to be obsessed with it when I actually get to it. This is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. I think there might be a little romance sprinkled in here. I know there's like talking plants and books and just all the cozy things I love, and I feel like this would be good any time of year. This book is also beautiful with the purple sprayed edges. Can we talk about that for a second? And then I have The Temptation of Magic, which was very high on my anticipated release of this year, but honestly my excitement for it kind of dipped a bit because no one has been talking about this. Like, no one I knew had read this until my friend Elizabeth sent me this book and she was like, Liv, this is a book for you. I know you're gonna love it. I know you're gonna get 5 stars. It's academic, it's magical. And I was like, okay, I hear you. If you're watching this, Elizabeth, I still promise I'm gonna read this and I'm so excited about it. Next, I have another spooky vampire new release book called Immortal Dark. This was blurbed by Chloe Gong, but also look at these pages. It says, no soul can enter without an invitation. It says, a lost heiress, a soulless vampire, a secret drenched in blood. This book is definitely perfect for this time of year. Even look at this. This is so cool. It says, seek mind above blood, and if you must bleed, use it as ink. I'm super excited about this one. I think it might even be a debut potentially. So yeah, been hearing great things and I think this is gonna be phenomenal. Another series that I bought the second one of without even reading the first, but I have no regrets, that is Apprentice to the Villain. This series, I know I'm going to give 5 stars. This is gonna be like the coziest fantasy of my dreams. I just know it. I know the humor is also amazing because I follow the author on Instagram. She is the cutest, most hilarious person I've ever seen, and I'm just so excited. This is gonna be so much fun. I know sometimes that the sprayed edges editions sell quickly or they're harder to get a hold of later, so decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on this one. Next is a book that I actually did start to read and I was very much enjoying it. That is The Wren and the Holly Library, but this is like 6 of Crows from what I've heard, and I was already getting those urban fantasy vibes. The naked cover is this beautiful library with her in the middle. Like, how could I say no to this? So this is gonna be another romantasy that probably sits on my shelf for a while until I get to it. We love books, we love romantasy, so the combination of both just sounds perfect. The last fantasy book I want to talk about is actually a graphic novel, which is the only graphic novel that I have in this book haul, surprisingly. But this series called Spectacular, I've heard, is actually very much like Caraval. We have 2 sisters, one dies and like comes back as a ghost, and there's some type of like carnival competition of some sort. I don't know exactly when this one came out, but I do know it is a little bit more backlisted, but I recently read Caraval and was obsessed, and I've heard this series is really good and very similar to it, so I wanted to try this one out for myself. Okay, we're done with the fantasy. We're gonna keep going with this. I do have a couple horror books I wanted to share with you real quick. The first one being Diavola, which I actually don't know much about other than it is a gothic horror fantasy about a family that goes to vacation, I think in Italy, and they come across this scary woman in the house. I don't know why she's there, but I have heard this is more of like a social commentary potentially, but I've heard nothing but amazing things, especially from people who like don't always read horror books like me, so I'm willing to give this one a shot. Next is a book called Slewfoot, which is probably the most scared I've ever been to try a book, but 2 of my really close friends read this and loved it and said it was so good. This book is giving The Village vibes, and I love that movie, so we'll see if I'm correct when I read this. Very scared, but also very intrigued about this one. Next I have All Hallows by Christopher Golden, which I believe takes place in the 80s or 90s on Halloween night, and it has to do with these unknown kids like trick-or-treating with the other kids, and they don't know where these kids came from, like they're not part of the neighborhood. It sounds really creepy and really weird, but also I'm really excited about it. And for some reason, it's kind of giving me like Stranger Things vibes. I don't know why, but I guess we'll find out. We also have Cutting Teeth by Chandler Baker, which is a social commentary about suburban moms whose kids are apparently vampires. I've heard it's funny, but it's also really good. I'm not a mom myself, so I don't know if it will be quite as hard-hitting, but I've heard this book is very entertaining. I've always wanted to try a Chandler Baker, so I think this is going to be a fun one to start with. And then we have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones, which is another author I have yet to read from. I've heard this one is very dark, but also kind of humorous. I just kind of want to see what this author's writing is like. It just intrigued me. Like, this title and this cover just makes me very intrigued. I think it's so interesting how we're getting a lot of like serial killer documentaries and things from like the 80s and 90s. And then we have Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman, which stands as the #1 scariest book I have ever read in my entire life. So if that doesn't convince you to want to read this, I don't know what will, but I just don't even want to say anything about this book. It is a book I will not easily forget, and it will potentially make it on my top favorites of the year. Then we have a fun little, more quirky type of mystery thriller called A Grim Reaper's Guide to Catching a Killer. I've actually never seen anyone talk about this until my friend Rachel brought it up recently to me, and it's about this girl who is essentially a Grim Reaper in a scythe. She kind of goes and ends people's lives. This cover alone looks so fun, and someone said funny and warm, delightfully fresh, and I can agree. I have never heard any idea like that before, so I think this is going to be a fresh, fun read. And then I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, which I never thought I would buy this book again or give this book a second try. I have read it, and I didn't really care for it that much, but I read the reappearance of Rachel Price, and I absolutely loved it. I bought this one, still need to get the other two, but I'm hoping it'll be a huge win the second time around. Another mystery series I would love to continue is The Housemaid's Secret. I read The Housemaid, gave it 5 stars. I'm so excited that we're getting a movie about it. I've heard this one isn't quite as good as the first, but I'm still willing to give it a shot. I love Frida McFadden, and I wanted to own this one. Next, I have Night Watching by Tracy Sierra, which is a book and a thriller that I'm going to be holding on to until the winter time. This is more like an isolated thriller where there's a mom and her kids who are stuck, I think, in this cabin, and there's a snowstorm. So other than that, I don't know anything, but this has been getting really great reviews. Next is a book by Peter Swanson called A Talent for Murder, and I've never read a Peter Swanson book, but my friend Elizabeth was like, wow, that book was insane. And it's also very short, and I'm sitting here not even knowing what this book is about. It says a newlywed librarian begins to suspect the man she married is a murderer in this spectacularly twisty and deliciously clever novel. Well, it's funny that this one sounds exactly like this next book I was gonna haul about a girl who is suspecting that her boyfriend could potentially be a killer. I don't know which one is gonna do it better. I love Frida McFadden, but I also haven't read a Peter Swanson yet, so these sound very similar, but I'm just gonna make sure I don't read them back to back, I guess. But I'm excited to read both of these. Next, I have an aardvark book choice that I kind of am going on a whim with. I have never heard of this author before, but this thriller is called The Unraveling. It's about a psychiatrist who has like this weird connection with one of her patients. I don't know in what way. I'm not a huge fan of domestic thrillers, but sometimes I get in the mood for one just to be like a quick palate cleanser, so I will definitely be reaching for this one. Then I have I Need You to Read This by Jessica Maxwell, who also wrote The Golden Spoon, which I never got around to reading, unfortunately, but the publisher so kindly sent me this, so thank you. But this one I think is about a journalist who realizes, I think, that her previous person in her spot actually got like killed or murdered or something like that. I don't know. This has to do with some type of murder mystery. I'm really excited to read a Jessica Maxwell. I think this is going to be a great one to start with. Another aardvark thriller that I got recently is called Where I End by Sophie White. This one is also super short, but this one actually won the Shirley Jackson Award. It's a modern gothic horror novel of a young woman who falls into a dark obsession after an artist and her baby enter her life. Something about this intrigues me, and the fact that it already won an award is kind of crazy. I also have The Book of Witching by CJ Cook, which I also talked talked about recently. This author is so underrated. She writes more historical, psychological, paranormal type of thrillers, so if any of those are your jam, I would definitely suggest starting with The Lighthouse Witches. And I was so happy to see this was a book of the month choice. This author 100% deserves 100% more hype. Alright, next I have a couple contemporary / romance books, and 2 of these are fall related, but the rest of them I don't think are. But the first one I've been very excited about is My Vampire Plus One by Jenna Levine. I loved My Roommate is a Vampire, and I loved these side characters even more than the main characters in that book. And this one just so happens to follow our side characters. So I've been super stoked for this one. It's quirky, it's really funny. The first one is about a girl who doesn't realize that she's moving in with a vampire. It's really cute, it's really good, and I can only imagine how much fun this one is gonna be. Next I have Morbidly Yours, which sounds like a super fun book that's very similar to The Dead Romantics. Our main character Callum is supposed to take over his family's undertaking business, but he's supposed to find love before he's 30. I personally have not gotten the chance to get to it myself, but if you've read this one, let me know, because I also see that Abby Jimenez blurbed it, so that must mean good things. Another special book that I got from the publisher, which I was so excited to get, is A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Bachman. I used to own this book. I read the book back in 2018-2019, unhauled it, and I was like, why did I unhaul that book? It was actually so good. I love his writing. I can't wait for his new book coming out next year, but this one is the 10th anniversary special edition. It's just really shimmery and really pretty and has like these flaps, which I think is super fun. Frederick Bachman has the best character studies ever. This book was also super funny, but I also cried. So if you've never read one of his books before, let this be your first one. Speaking of dead romantics, I also got The Love of My Afterlife, which apparently people have said is better than The Dead Romantics. I guess maybe she or he falls in love with the ghost potentially. I really want to read this very soon because I have a feeling it could be like a really good favorite of the year, but this one specifically is calling to me lately. So if you've read this, let me know if I need to bump it up on my TBR. Another romance book that people will not stop talking about is Under Your Spell. Under Your Spell's epic sisterhood, healing journey, and slow burn romance beautifully demonstrate how love can rock you to your core. I do know this one has a musical element, but other than that, I know absolutely nothing. The publisher had even sent this cute little like guitar pick with it. Another romance book that came out recently that I haven't seen anyone talk about, but I feel like could be really fun. It's called Mysterious Ways by Wendy Wonder. This cover is so adorable. Our main character actually can read people's minds. She has this crazy power where she knows every person's private thought, and she wants to fall in love, and she ends up meeting a guy and she wants him to know, but she's scared. And I just love when there's like some type of fantastical element to romance stories, something that really carries the plot versus like the spice, and I feel like this is definitely going to be one of those books. And last but not least, another book from a publisher called No Two Persons. This is about one book, 9 readers, 10 changed lives. No Two Persons is a gloriously original celebration of fiction and the way it deepens our lives. Personally, I love a book about books, and I feel like this is going to be a very heartfelt book. It looks like we have multiple different viewpoints, but that this is told over a long span of time. So I'm really interested to see what this book is. I feel like I haven't read anything exactly like this, but it's kind of giving me like Matt Haig vibes. I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna report back, and who knows, maybe it'll be another favorite of the year. Whew! Alright friends, there you have it. There's my latest 50 book haul, and honestly there was more books I could have even included in this haul, but it would have been like 5 hours long. But I hope you guys found maybe a new recommendation or just liked to see me haul books. We love a good book haul around here. Not all of these books were fall specific, but a lot of them could definitely fit that vibe. Thank you guys for watching and supporting my channel. Before you leave, I would love it. I would absolutely love it if you would check out my book sleeve collection. It is beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. I'm obsessed with it. If you don't even own a book sleeve, this is your perfect chance to finally get one. I promise you will not be disappointed. The quality is perfect. I could rant about them for ages, but please go ahead and check out my book sleeve collection. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video.